How long have you been doing this type of carving?
This type of carving basically fell on my lap when my grandmother passed. My grandmother, who was from Peskotomuhkati, Peskotomuhkati, or Passamaquoddy, when she passed away, she was my connection to everything, from language to traditions to all of it. And like a lot of other young Indigenous people, they really don't take advantage when they're young. And when she passed away, I realized that everything changed immediately, and everything was in my hands. So the first thing I did was I went after language. Language is everything. Once I learned a bit of language, which I'm going to now, I'm going to school for the next 2 years on a more extensive language program, but once I'm learning the language, I can see through my ancestors' eyes the way they meant me to see the world. And it has changed my life completely. Now that I see, I could go on, because it's a whole different way of thinking. In their language, in my language, this is a table. In English, this is a table. In my language, it's a place to eat on. A chair is a chair, but in my language, it's a place to sit on. When you think about that, between a noun and a verb-based language, one of them can be owned and one of them cannot. One of them is just being borrowed. It's just a place to sit on. We all have a place to sit. We all have a place to eat. Whereas chairs and tables, they can be owned. That's my chair. That is my table. So once I went after language, it opened up a whole new world. Right after a bit of language, it's these type of tools that our people used just up to a few hundred years ago exclusively. They used everything by hand. So when after the language, I wanted to learn crafts and I wanted to teach them. I have 2 young boys and I wanted to teach it to them. Every craft I could get, traditional craft I could get. Everything from beading to quill work to carving. I wanted to learn it all. I come from a long line of basket makers. Some of the phrase say they come from 13th generation. That's what they are. That's basically what I would be. I'd be the same thing. It's the same lineage. So I come from a long line of basket makers. I went to a school here, which is one of the few in Canada, to learn some Indigenous crafts at NBCCD. I found this program. I looked all across Canada and I realized it was right here. So I went to learn these crafts for my children and for my people, but mostly my children. And once I started learning these crafts, I thought I was going to be a basket maker. Like I said previously, I come from a long line of basket makers. And so I was like, hey, that's got to be in my blood. So you know what, let's go after it. So I went to learn baskets. First thing I learned is it was going to probably take me a couple decades to even catch up to my relatives, how good they are. So I have family members right now that can make baskets way better than I could in the next 20 years. But what happened to me was I learned everything and loved doing everything. But then there was one day I had a friend come up to me that actually, he was running the school at the time. He said, my man, he said, what are you doing here? I said, man, I heard to learn some traditional crafts. He said, well, I got the thing for you. He said, this is the very first day. Named Charlie Gaffney. And he said, I'll meet you. He said, Sap, I'll meet you after your first day of class. Meet me outside. I want to show you something. Met him outside. He showed me my first piece of wood. I started it immediately that first day, and I've never looked back. It's been 3 years now, maybe closer to 4, that I've done nothing but carved. And as soon as I put one of these in my hand, I'm sure people feel it all the time. It just feels I'm in the right place. I've done this a lot before, and nothing makes me happier. And then when I add a place like this, when I'm doing this, and the ancestors are here more than I can even imagine, and they're constantly guiding me. So when I say I'm a traditional carver, I try to take it to the next level. Everything is done by hand, mallet, chisel, and hand sanded. And if I can do it, bit of rain, bit of snow, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm outside, hearing those sounds, seeing that river, it's a very special thing.